Hello and welcome everybody to Two Nerds in a Pod, the nerdiest video game podcast in the known universe. I am one half of the gaming show here. My name's Mac, and I'm joined by my better half, Mr. Nice Guy 425, also known as Mr. Lam Galuka, stand-up comedian and stand-up guy, and thank you for showing up. It is Tuesday, May 11th, 2021, and it's time to get nerdy. Special thanks and shout out to our returning sponsor, Game Insider Magazine. Mr. Nice Guy, how the heck are you?
Dude, I'm good. For those who have been following the journey, many of you know that I started a new day job recently. I've been searching Wisconsin for a house. We finally found a house. The housing market is hot, Mac. Every time we put bids in, there were 13 other bids. We finally found one that'll work for the fam. So I'm excited about that, man.
Congratulations, dude. That is fantastic. I was starting to get worried, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, you thought I was going to be homeless, weren't you? You thought we were not going to be able to do the pod. I was going to have to go to the library every week to do the pod and to shower. But luckily, we found a place, so now I don't have to do either of those things at the local library. I can do them in my home in Wisconsin.
Well, I'm just happy that you got up. I was mostly concerned that you would be doing some crazy, ridiculous thing like commuting multiple hours, to work each day, nonsense like that.
That would have been insane. So, met one of my next door neighbors, very, very sweet lady. And on the way in, she's like the grandmotherly type. She was like, "Oh, you're going to love the neighborhood. It's great. You're going to love it, right?" And we were like, "Awesome." And then as we were leaving, she saw how many kids we had. And she was like, "Just so you know, there's another house around the street that has way bigger yard." And I was like, "You're nervous. My kids are going to be loud, aren't you?" No, she was a sweetheart, though. So it's going to be fun. Really, really nice people. We're excited to be out there. And Mac, when you come, there will be a place for you to stay.
Oh, that's fantastic news. Will there be a place for me, however, to play Half-Life Alyx, which, as you know, I've promised to play with you?
Yes, indeed, there will be. And we're going to talk a little bit about that later in the show. But yes, one of my criteria when I was meeting with my realtor, I was like, this might sound weird. I love my wife, Alicia, with all my heart, but I have a bromance with a good friend of mine who I've known for over a decade, strictly platonic. And so there needs to be a room for him to stay when he comes to hang out. And she was like, "Well, we'll make that work. That's kind of weird, but we'll make it work." And she did. She did it. So,
well, hey, I'm not picky. I can even make do with some kind of, room over the garage. Garage.
Yeah, we'll make it work. Well, Mac, how was your week?
Ooh, man. It's good. So I've got a couple of exciting things coming up. One happened today. I received new headphones. I've not been much of a wireless headphone dude, like ever, but I decided to take a chance on it because I got sick and tired of catching, the cord on my headphones and having it, pull out of my ears and such. So I picked some up, and I've had them for a few hours now, and I'm kind of loving them. They're working out pretty well.
Are those them?
No. What I'm wearing right now, no, these are my computer headphones. I'm talking about like little inside of the ear headphones for use with my phone.
I was worried that I was going to ruin your day because I was going to say, Mac, those that you're wearing do have a wire.
Yeah.
They do indeed have a wire. So somebody tricked you.
I had been bamboozled, clearly.
Yeah, I'm glad that's not the pair. So you got the wireless ones. They charge up. You put them in your ear. Dude, I'm excited. I want to hear more about them later in the show.
Yeah, maybe I'll give you a phone call with them, and you can hear. But that's cool. Also, on its way to me is a collector's edition of Chasm. Video game that I know, I love. I'm always playing it. But I got a PS4 version physical, done by Limited Run Games, and so I'll have that copy. And then I'll have a second copy with the Switch version because I found hidden things in the game that were there as
Nice.
Easter eggs, and so I won. A prize. So I'll have both a Switch and a PS4 physical copies, to hang on to. So
The display. That's dope.
yeah.
That's very
Anyway, so that should be in my hands tomorrow. I was hoping that I would have them today. As a matter of fact, I was kind of hanging by the mailbox because I'm like, yes, I'll show it off when we get going. But, alas, 'tis not to
Dude,
be.
that's the best though. That's the best feeling though. Like because there's not a lot when we're our age that comes in the mail that gets us like,
Mm-hmm.
like let's do this. Like I'm 12 again and I'm waiting for something.
Yeah.
So I'm excited that you're getting to re-experience that feeling. A little bit jealous of you, but that's exciting, dude. Well, cool, Mac. I say we do what we do best and hop right into that gaming news, my friend. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. What cool, nerdy things have been going on, Mr. Nice Guy? Share.
Well, this is episode 188, and we've got some stuff that's, quite frankly, really great to share with the people. I'm sorry, that was so corny.
No, that was great. I loved it.
First news story comes from Upload VR. It's about virtual reality. We were talking about Half-Life Alyx a little bit earlier. Let's talk about it a little bit more. Sony's next generation VR headset for PlayStation 5 has significantly higher resolution, inside-out tracking, a vibration motor, and even foveated rendering. Reliable sources tell Upload VR. Here's what the article says. By the way, this is by Ian Hamilton. We don't know the product's name, but multiple sources tell us Sony's shared details with partners. Those details include a resolution of 4,000 by 2040 pixels, 2,000 by 2040 per eye, a lens separation adjustment dial, a gaze tracking capable of foveated rendering. Now, Mac, foveated rendering, for those who are uninitiated, who may not know a lot about VR, means that if you're looking at a certain part of a level or that portion will render immediately. The other stuff not in your vision won't render as much. So it takes more of the processing power towards that part you're looking at, right, to make it look crispy and clean. The rest of it will be a little blurry until you then look at that, right? So basically it's prioritizing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Prioritizing what looks good. Sony previously confirmed it is developing a next generation wired VR headset for PS5 to release sometime after 2021 and revealed the controllers for the upcoming device with analog sticks and finger position sensing. So, Mac, you have tried out the Valve Index.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you got to do any of the apps that had the individual fingers moving, but the Valve Index is capable of that. It can finger track, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas some of the other ones cannot, but it's kind of a cool feature. The PS5 VR is going to do that as well. And there's some other features, some speculation. But, Mac, here's what I want to tell you. VR is here to stay. As someone who, I know you've tried it, you liked it, you don't have it yet. I'm curious, what your perception is as to what setup you would pick if you wanted to get in. Are you going wireless? We were just talking about wireless headphones. Are you going wireless to Oculus Quest 2? Are you going for full power with the Valve Index? Or are you saying, you know what, Mr. Nice Guy? I don't have a next-gen console, and I could get a next-gen console and a PS5 VR for the price of a Valve Index. So maybe you'd go that route. What would appeal to you?
Well, I would prefer wired over wireless, mostly
Really?
because I don't want to deal with cramming a battery inside of the headset as well. That's going to add extra weight. And then, of course, if you take away the battery pack, or if you try and slim things down and give a smaller battery pack that doesn't put as much weight on your head, well, then you're just, dealing with shorter battery lifetimes. Now, I have not played straight with the VR thing, long term, for more than, say, 45 minutes at a time without, taking a breather.
Yeah.
So, I mean, is that the biggest deal? No, but in my time using an index, one thing that I did appreciate about the cables is it actually helped center me a little bit.
Yeah,
it was, a little bit of that physical thing, because we had it rigged up. My brother-in-law actually rigged it up really, really well, but he had it rigged up to the ceiling so that the cables moved along the ceiling, and it made it that much easier to remember where the home row was. For those of you who remember, keyboards, surely something that has not gone out of style is the home row, and so it's a little bit kind of like that home row bit, just that little bit there, so that you're in the right spot without having to look at it. And so I found that useful. I would probably go for the wired solution for those reasons,
So to
even though the
get to
power is not the biggest consideration for me.
so to get a little more specific,
Hmm.
like let's say we're not even thinking about availability, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're not talking about inventory or back like the Valve Index being backed up, or the price. All things equal, if you're just picking, like, what experience do you want? Is it your Valve Index? Is it your HTC Vive? Is it the Quest? Because the Quest 2 has, I guess you just kind of said you're not as concerned about wireless, but what are you picking? Is it the Valve Index?
Yeah, probably the Valve Index.
Gotcha. And I'm curious in the chat what people would pick too. Um, I have seen Ready Player One. I don't know if you've seen that movie, Mac. I think that we're far, far from that, right? Like that's, but at the same time, I would have never thought that Half-Life Alyx could be a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe 10, 15 years from now, Ready Player One is a reality. I will say this about the wired solution that is the Valve Index, because that's the one thing that people have against it, is that it's wired. I have a pulley system up on my ceiling, provided by our good friends of the show, Kiwi Design. And when I put the cords of the Valve Index into that pulley system, it keeps it nice and clean. I don't feel the cord, and I'm not aware of it, so I don't think I'm going to trip on it. I still feel centered, like you were saying, and it makes it way more immersive. So for those of you considering, like I see someone in the chat saying they want the Valve Index, it is the best VR headset out there. It's phenomenal. If you're wanting to get it but you still want that wireless feel, look up a pulley system for your VR headset. So
Now, before we leave VR headsets, Mr. Nice Guy, I'm sure you're
yeah,
familiar with the news that broke that Facebook, who has the Oculus Quest going on, that they said that they were going to offer they were basically going to offer a Quest version that did not, an Oculus version rather, that did not require a Facebook account.
I'll be honest, I actually did not know that.
Ah, well then, I seem to recall, and I apologize. I did not prepare news for today,
No,
so I
that's
didn't,
okay.
so I don't have the stuff in front of me. But I believe it was something like $400 extra, and they'll sell you a Quest that doesn't have Facebook login requirement. And I
That is
think there
absurd.
was also something like a annual thing as well.
That is
Um,
absolutely absurd. That's
I
absurd.
I agree it's absurd if it didn't feel like a made up number. And this is just me
Yeah,
kind of throwing it out there. I think it's Facebook's way of being like, "Oh, well you didn't like how we were going to do Facebook integration. Well, fine. I guess we'll give you an option. What, $400 extra and
yeah.
$100 a year?" Yep, just to put it at that sort of point where it's like, well, yes, there is an option, but nobody's seriously considering it.
Right. No
So
one in
they're
their right mind.
so they're sticking with the Facebook integrated one. Um,
That's funny. That is
yeah.
funny. And here's the reason why, Mac, because the Quest 2, I believe, is $399.
Mm.
So you're basically paying twice as much, right? You're paying $800 to get one that doesn't have the Facebook integration, and then hypothetically, right, $100 a year. At that point, you're basically at the Valve Index price.
Yeah, basically. So I mean, I guess it's one of those where maybe Valve Index for the rest of us too.
Yeah, it could be. Well, cool. Let's keep things moving. We have said recently that we are doing less news stories, but focusing more on some of the meatier topics. So probably just 2 or 3 today. It's so timely. Someone in the chat says they want Half-Life 3, Left 4 Dead 3, or Portal 3, or Counter-Strike 2. We're talking about the Valve Index. Let's share some more Valve news, Mac, in that vein. This is on GameInformer.com, written by Liana Rupert. The Orange Box gave console players Half-Life and Portal, but could more Steam games be coming to console? According to a recent Q&A with Valve's Gabe Newell, it looks like it's likely. One fan shot their shot to the king of the PC, and his answer has the community pretty excited for what that could mean. And I watched this clip, Mac. Here's what it says about this clip that is available on Reddit. One Redditor shared a clip of when they asked if any more Steam games could be coming to consoles. Newell responded saying, "We will have a better idea about that later this year." If you were at all curious about if this is something players want, all you have to do is listen to the clip and hear the chorus of oohs and ahs immediately after. So, Mac, Valve has been mostly a PC company, right? I mean, we have the Orange Box, we had Portal 2, but a lot of their stuff has really been ideal PC. I know that you, when we went to some gaming expo we went to, you won a Valve. Like, don't you get all the Valve games? So why don't you tell the people what it is?
So I feel bad because I think in my mind, right, my revisionist history, I was just like, oh, we both won it. I
No,
won
we
one,
did not. We did
and
not.
Mr. Nice Guy won one. But as you set me straight, that was just my rose-colored glasses on this. But we went to a thing. We spun this wheel, and the prize that I got was a card with a Steam code on it. And at the time they said, this will give you all Valve games that have ever been released or will be released in the future. And I thought it was bonkers. I'm just like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
easy
yeah.
for you to say. Valve hasn't released a game in a couple of years, and it doesn't look like they're trying to in the future. But then, of course, when Half-Life Alyx came out, it was in my Steam library
Yep.
because turns out it's correct.
Yeah. So Mac, just so you guys and girls know, Mac now gets every Valve game that will ever be made for free, and we're not kidding. This is not a joke. Um, so anyway, the idea of playing some of these games on console, and Gabe Newell saying that we will know more by the end of this year, and I watched the clip. It's legitimately him. He's legitimately saying this. Goes back to that conversation we're having every week. Are console wars, PC wars, are they over? What do you think? And do you want to play Valve games on console? That's my question. Really.
I mean, I don't mind, but you know me, I'm more of a PC gamer from the
Yeah.
outset, so I'd prefer to play them on PC. But
Okay. So, I guess the one game that really comes to my mind is Half-Life Alyx, because that's a game that's only on PC because they only put it on PC, and it's more limited because PC generally is what people use for VR. But if we could get it on the PlayStation, I think that it opens up one of the best games ever made to a bigger audience, and to me, that's only a good thing. More people being able to play.
100% agree. I have not experienced Half-Life Alyx, but I want to, and I want more people to as well. I think when we were talking about Game of the Year at the close of 2020, we were both a little bit disappointed that Half-Life Alyx did not achieve that. I believe you said that you thought it was the standout winner, but thought that, a lot of people didn't get a chance to play, so it didn't rate high enough in their estimation, so they skipped it.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Now we have people in the chat saying that console gaming has never been big to Valve,
Mm-hmm.
and I would say that's somewhat true, but not really, because Left 4 Dead 1 and 2 were both on there. We
Mm-hmm.
had Portal 2 and Portal 1 on
Mm-hmm.
there with the orange box. We had Team
Yeah.
Fortress 2,
Half-Life.
Half-Life. Yeah, so I mean,
Half-Life on the original Xbox, I feel like, and Half-Life
and
2.
360
No,
and
Half-Life,
360.
yeah, and Half-Life 2 episode. Yeah, so, we've had it on there. Although, I will say, shout out to Met's Girl. She corrected my earlier comment. It's 400 extra for the base, and then 180 per year on top of that for a
That's
Oculus non-Facebook integrated.
See, and that's only until they stop supporting it, right?
Indeed. But isn't that the truth of basically all
Everything.
video games?
Yeah, that's true. Anything that has online functionality. But anyway, to the point of them not liking console stuff, they do put it on there. It doesn't have mods, right? It's not in its ideal form. But some of the stuff that's been kind of gate-kept on PC, it'd be fun to see it come to console.
Agreed.
That has been our news for the week.
All right. Well, now that we've looked toward what's going on right now, the present, let's take a look into the past. Some video game history for you. We want to start in 2017 and work backwards. This week in 2017, we saw the release of Dead Cells for the PC.
Yes.
Yes, I figured you'd enjoy that. I got a fair way through Dead Cells. It wasn't my favorite game in the world. It's good, but not my favorite. I know that a lot of people, though, are quite thrilled with the game. Mr. Nice Guy, not least of them.
Yeah. I were you wanting me to
Oh,
jump in
sure,
here?
yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
I really enjoyed it. It's a roguelite for those of you who don't know, which means that you play through, you die, you keep some of your progress, you earn points, and then you play through again. You do multiple runs. There's multiple bosses, but the order in which you move to get to them kind of shifts a little bit, and it's kind of like going through a maze in a sense. Tons of weapons, tons of upgrades, tons of defensive stats that you can get. And I really, really thought it was a great game. Now, they did release additional DLC, and it wasn't a game that had staying power to me. But for a couple months when I was really into it, I had a blast. It's a great game.
Yeah. I as well spent, I don't know, maybe a good solid 3-4 weeks, maybe a month,
Yeah.
playing that quite a bit off and on, even through a couple of DLCs. And it was well worth the price that I paid for the entertainment that it brought, and it's a worthwhile game. Not my favorite in the world, but, I don't regret buying it for a minute. So Dead
Yeah.
Cells, maybe it might be your thing, came out this week. We go a little bit farther back to 2003, a release for the Game Boy Advance, Castlevania Aria of Sorrow. So this game, fantastic, excellent. I think Symphony of the Night is probably top tier Castlevania. I think Aria of Sorrow is pretty well level with it. Good sprite work, especially for the platform, because remember, we're talking PS1 to Game Boy Advance. But well put together, lots of cool, interesting elements and monsters. There's a lot to love there. If you haven't already, and you have the option, thoroughly recommend that Aria of Sorrow, absolutely one of the best. I'm not the biggest fan of the term Metroidvania, but it's,
Why
one of the
not?
better ones. Well, I feel like it's a term that evokes the idea, it's, got backtracking, it has
Exactly.
save
Yeah.
points, it's got that. But I feel like we inherently cause issues when we make the name from other notable games. It sets up an expectation that I don't think necessarily ought to be there, but it is a Castlevania game, the half of the
Yeah,
Metroidvania.
exactly.
So, I
Yeah.
mean,
I get your point. It's a valid point.
point being, fantastic. Try it. Excellent.
Yeah.
We step a little bit farther back in time to 1995. This week was the launch of the Sega Saturn. It launched with a few titles: Clockwork Knight, Daytona USA, Panzer Dragoon, that I know we've all heard of because I've drooled about before, Virtua Fighter, Worldwide Soccer. Those were its releases when it launched, and it lasted a whopping 3 years until November 30th, 1998, with the release of its last game, Magic Knight Ray Earth. So, a moment of silence. Press F in the chat for the fallen Sega Saturn. Was good while it lasted. And then on to the fourth game, and perhaps the one closest to my heart of the whole group. Released in 1992, Wolfenstein 3D, released for the PC. So, you mentioned something earlier about, Foveated Rendering.
Correct.
That is this technique that they are using in VR to focus the rendering on, where your eyeballs are. Which reminded me of the way that they did pseudo 3D in Wolfenstein 3D, because the levels were not generated as a three-dimensional model.
Oh, really?
That was then rendered. No. Rather, what they did was they basically they took your point in space, and then as your field of view was in a specific region, they would render that field of view with the depth and with the data, but there was no actual 3D model of the
Interesting.
maps or anything like that. So while Wolfenstein 3D certainly gave the appearance of a three-dimensional game, it didn't have an independently created or an independently persistent three-dimensional environment
Huh.
inside of it. It's a little bit semantic-y here because we are talking about complex things like computer code and trying to squeeze the most out of your 486 kilobytes. But nonetheless, it is a fantastic game. Even Rolf, who says that Wolfenstein is the forbidden game, has played it. There's a history there, of course. But nonetheless, Wolfenstein 3D released in 1992, a classic and one that I played quite a bit of when I was younger on the old 486.
Nice.
But that's just a little bit of video game history for you. If you have the chance, these are all titles that you should give a second look.
Nice. Well, let's talk about our topic of the week, where we discuss something relevant in gaming and give our opinion on it. Mac, this is something that we have talked about a lot on the show, but I want us to delve a little bit deeper. It goes to the concept of fan games, of remakes, of passion projects, and why some companies allow them and why some don't. This is from IGN.com by Kat Bailey. She says, or she writes, fan remakes and other community passion projects can be a wonderful expression of communal fandom. Unfortunately, they tend to be shut down with depressing regularity. So it's refreshing to see Sega go to bat for fan games, even if that support comes with some caveats. Here's what she says about that. And actually, I'm just going to read the tweet that she quotes here. This is from Kate Trzowski, who is the social media manager for Sega.
Mm-hmm.
She says, and this is in response to a fan question. She says, "Hey, Sonic fans, I appreciate you all reaching out with concerns over fan games and monetization. So long as no profit is involved, there is usually no issue with y'all using our Blue Boy to hone your art and dev skills," meaning Sonic the Hedgehog, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then she says, "For legal reasons, I can't promise that all content is okay." Mac, I find it interesting that some companies allow this and some don't.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's a money thing. So I'm curious, like, why is this with, let's just use Nintendo. Why is Nintendo so against it? Sega so okay with it?
Man, I wish I knew. I mean, for starters, Nintendo isn't. I mean, Nintendo's not a person that we could ask directly. They're a huge conglomeration of people, different people at the helm at any given point in time. As time goes on, opinions and perspectives will change, hopefully. But you are right. Of all the game companies out there, Nintendo seems to be one of the least interested in allowing you to have fun with their intellectual property in basically any way whatsoever. Like, for example, you may recall that person who completely redesigned from the ground up Mario 64 in Unity. Was using
beautiful.
no original code of Nintendo's, was using no original assets, had recreated the assets entirely on his own. I mean, as much of a as much of a passion project and labor of love as you could have. And I mean, within a few hours, it was down. There are
Just for the record, I believe it was in Unreal Engine, but just as a small
Unreal.
point of
Yeah.
clarification.
No, it's a good clarification. Good point of clarification. And yeah, something that, especially at the time, because we were talking about that back in, say, 2016, I want to say. But Nintendo didn't have, for themselves, they didn't have a remaster or a re-release of Super Mario 64 until just a couple of months ago. So
Yeah,
that's
true.
4+ years wherein there's no real way to even make the argument that his recreation was substituting for money that Nintendo could have had. So I think, to your point, like you were saying, these sorts of situations almost don't even feel like it's about money.
Well, and that's what it makes me wonder. We're going to read some of these great comments people are putting in the chat, by the way, live as we're recording this. Um, it makes me wonder if Nintendo, they knew they were going to make that Mario 64 remake eventually, and they said, "Oh man, this guy's is actually better than ours," or even if it wasn't better, just this is going to take away from the excitement for it when we do it, in 4 years.
Well, it's entirely possible. For example, another Metroid 2 remake is a fantastic PC version of the game Metroid 2, but much improved. It got shut down, and shortly thereafter, Nintendo released their Metroid 2 remake for the 3DS. That was that's a situation where it definitely was a sort of, oh man, this is really good, we got to shut this down or else people will play that instead of buying ours on the 3DS.
Right.
But this one, yeah, there doesn't seem to be the money component.
Now, Galvatron in the chat says Sega can afford to have no problem with Sonic fan games. Unlike Mario, Sonic is no longer a viable franchise and is not profitably evergreen as Mario is. I do think Sonic is a viable franchise. I
I
agree
mean,
with you.
how much money did the Sonic movie bring in? I
Yeah,
mean, I don't know.
exactly.
I
It
really
did
don't know.
well.
Was
It did fine. I'm sure it did just fine,
Did
and
the
I
kids
enjoyed
like
it.
it?
The kids liked it. It was a fine movie. So I mean, Sonic, and they're gonna make another one. Sonic is doing just fine. But if we are talking about games specifically, he kind of has a point. I don't think it's not a viable franchise, but I agree that it's not as profitable as Mario. So I
Didn't we get
agree with that.
Sonic Mania as well recently?
We did.
Yeah,
Yeah,
in the past couple of
maybe a
years.
couple years back. Yeah,
Yeah.
Sonic Mania came out. So they're still making Sonic games. I'll kind of relate this to comedy. I'm in a couple marketing groups for comedians, and one of the people who runs one of these groups said, if you're like a mid-level comedian, maybe you have a late night credit, and you have some content out there, but you're not a household name, the best way to get your name out there is just to give away your stuff for free. Give away not all your stuff, but like give away if you have a CD, put it online and let people download it. More people will discover you. They'll appreciate that act of goodwill, and then eventually they'll become monetized fans, right? And Steve Hofstetter, a great comedian, is the master of this. He makes almost all his stuff free, and he's like selling out comedy clubs, right? Because he's gotten his name out there that way. How does this relate to video games? Because if you're a company and you have a big IP, or even a mid-level IP, and you want to get it out there more, let your fans make some stuff. Let them make stuff for free. Don't charge. Let them use those assets. All it's going to do is create more hype around your character. Now, you could argue that Nintendo doesn't need that, but I think that it would show that you are big enough as a company to let your fans be creative with the thing that you have made.
Now,
So,
I will contrast it with one very successy story, I think. Remember, there was a fellow who was remaking Resident Evil 2 in either Unity or Unreal, and he was doing it in the style of Resident Evil 4,
okay.
over the shoulder type controls. And then, if I am not very much mistaken, his project got shut down by Capcom, and Capcom, I'm pretty sure, hired him on to help with the Resident Evil 2 remake that we saw just a couple of years later. They incorporated him into the team. I'm 97% sure that what I said there is accurate and factual. But so I'll stick with it.
It's such an interesting concept, man. Like,
Yeah, so it's not just like a Japan company thing. It's not just a mindset that comes from being, on different sides of the world. You and I both here in America being like, oh man, these Japanese companies Sega and Capcom seem to be on board with this type of thing. Yeah.
let's use your example real quick, and we'll end on this. Your example of your favorite game, Skyrim. Would Skyrim have been released as many times as it has over the past decade if there was not also a modding community, that keeps it fresh? Now, granted, some of those releases are on consoles where it can't really be modded, but I still think that the fact that you can increase textures or improve textures, the fact that you can add additional dungeons, you can remove spiders if spiders scare you, like the fact that you can be creative with this massive world is part of what has kept it alive, I believe.
You know, I'll go with you on that one. I don't know for sure, but I think it's worth asking. So
Yeah,
we ask this to you, listener. If not
listener.
for the modern modding, if not for letting people work with it, with the IP, would it have been as big of a hit?
Who knows? The world may never know. That has been our topic of the week.
All right, well, now we turn over to a Kickstarter project, a crowdfunding project that's trying to get off the ground. We call this Kick or Kickstart. I will post a link in the chat so that those of you who are here with us live can take a peek. We'll discuss some of the virtues, some of the vices, and then say whether or not we think it should be kickstarted or kicked out of here. And I can see that smile on your face, Mr. Nice Guy, as you already know why this made it into Kick or Kickstart. It's
Yeah.
about Mega Man, my
Yes.
favorite IPs. Uh,
Love it.
Go Capcom. So, this is a project. They're looking for 9,000 or so to get this thing off of the ground, and the minimum buy-in, if you actually want what is being sold, is $230. This is not a game in the traditional sense, but rather an attempt to take a programming platform and a programming interface and to basically slap a Mega Man coat of paint on it. The idea to teach programming via this. For the $230, you would get a Mega Man kit, and you would get Mega Man guide booklets, 10 of them specifically, one of each, in order to help you figure out how to use this basically motion sensor rig in order to control Mega Man and to build your own levels inside of the framework itself. Teach yourself code, teach yourself programming. Making Mega Man Code Legend is what it is. Starting from the ground up, the idea is learn how to code, learn how to put things together. There is some component of stuff, various things like making stages, putting together robot masters, and so on. And like I said, of course, this does have a motion sensor component to it, so you make him run by twisting your wrist, jump by flicking your wrist. There's a button for shooting, which it clearly is just, tied into, shall we say, like a rapid fire with shooting on the Mega Man, Bluetooth compatible, and the like. So, Mr. Nice Guy, what do you think?
Okay, so here's what I think. First of all, let's start with something positive.
Yes, let's start with positive.
So from an accessibility standpoint, this is very cool, right? I can think of someone who maybe has lost a limb, right? Because it looks like, for those of you who can't see this at home, if you're listening to this on audio, the motion control is something you put your hand in, you tip it one way to make him walk one way, you tip it the other way, you click some buttons. So there may be some people that can't use a traditional controller that could really benefit from something like this, right? Not just for Mega Man, but for other, 2D side-scrolling platforming games, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that is a cool idea. What I will say about this that's a little more critical is the price point is entirely too much for something that is this specific.
Mm-hmm.
If this was like, hey, here's this motion control and you can use it to create any game, like in any IP, just you pull the assets in yourself, or you make the assets yourself, I'd say, okay, that's cool. But where this is like specifically to make Mega Man levels, like to me, that's way too narrow. The last thing, did you want to respond to that before I
go
say
for it.
The last thing I'll say is we were literally just talking about stuff getting shut down, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, it's interesting that this is using all these Mega Man assets, and we'll see if it makes it to the end or if it gets shut down.
Yeah, well, it's already completed its funding. As far as I'm aware, from what I'm seeing, that they have licensed from Capcom the use of these.
They do.
So
Okay.
yeah, it shouldn't be
My
getting
bad.
shut down. But I mean, goodness, I like where it's going, and there's some of the things going on with it that are really cool. But yes, the price point, $230 to get something workable to be able to take advantage of this, I think is too much. I think, like you're saying, the limitations on the programming and what you can do with it, we already have a Mega Man Maker for PC if you want to make a Mega Man game or make something in the Mega Man style. We already have game-making programs that are significantly more approachable, and I would hazard a guess that you can probably, with very limited knowledge, probably cobble together a similar rig that will, let you do these various motion controls for significantly less than the sum of these various parts. I'm just, yeah, I just think it can be done less expensive, and I just don't see that there's sufficient value in this to move forward with it. So I'm very much with you. The idea behind it's cool. I like what they're doing, and I especially like it because it's Mega Man. But at the end of the day, it really fails to deliver the type of value that I think we need for something like that.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is too, like, for just thinking about what you can do with $200, that's almost halfway to a PlayStation 4. If someone just wants like something to play games on, and like you said, there's other coding software out there. I just tried to Google real quick just to see what else is out there to learn programming, and there's courses, but I'm not seeing anything hardware wise. But I can't help but think that for less than 200, you could get something. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you've got access to what this can provide for less expensive. The only thing that you're really paying for here, I feel like, is a Mega Man coat of paint. And as much as I love Mega Man, that's not quite enough to win me over. So I'd have to
Viewers are
say,
disagreeing with us today, though.
huh? Yeah,
Viewers seem to, in the chat, people seem to like it.
that's true. Mets Girl's on board with it. I feel like, is Spennis on board with it as well? But not
He is,
outside what I could have expected. Oh, okay. Well, it looks like we are tied. 2 kicks, that's us, and 2 kickstarts from the chat. Somebody better weigh in and break this stalemate. But nonetheless, we wish them the best of luck. It's already been fully funded. They're at double what their original goal was, so hopefully they can go the distance, and this goes well for them. Alex, man, thank you for the tiebreaker. Looks like a kick. So,
awesome.
Now we turn over to Nerdflex.
Woo-hoo. A segment where you, the viewer, try to stump the host. And sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. So, we have some people in the chat already chomping at the bit, wondering if they can ask a question. Just as a friendly reminder, yes, you can. Please, multiple choice questions. Please make sure they are gaming related.
Mm-hmm.
Mac, this is episode 188. We still got some questions floating out there from weeks past.
We might. I can't say that I've come prepared with any past ones, although there are plenty past
I was talking about
sound
the audio.
tests.
Yeah, that's what I meant. My bad. That's what I meant.
Well,
first question. Oh, go ahead.
No, let's
first
go for it.
First question comes from Met's Girl. It says, what is the item you can find on the floor? What is the item you can find on floor 4 in the abysmal ruins in Pokemon Black and White, and Black and White 2? A, relic crown. B, pixie plate. C, relic gold. D, ancient statue. Question comes from Anya, she says.
Mm-hmm. So, I have no idea. I don't remember Black and White well at all. Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking, like, let's just think in a ruin, right? I mean, honestly, all those things sound like
relic crown and ancient statue both sound ruinous.
Yeah, ancient statue sounded like the first one to me.
Mm-hmm.
That stuck out to me.
Mm-hmm.
What are you thinking? I'm thinking D.
Yeah, I'm willing to go with you on this one. Let's go D, final answer, and let us know, because hopefully we got it. But yeah, I just don't remember one bit. Look, it'll be something like pixie plate. I mean, I suppose relic gold could also be, but the answer is A, relic crown.
Dang.
Ah, it's a shame. It's a shame,
We
Mr.
had
Nice Guy.
we narrowed it down to 50-50.
It's true, and we were still wrong.
We were still wrong. That is okay. Get those questions in if you have them. Maybe we should take one from the test bank. What do you think, man?
Sure, one from the test bank while we wait. I think that sounds capital.
Yeah, let's find.
Ha.
Oh, did we get another one?
Yes, but I don't
joke
think it's
question?
one. Yeah, it's not really one I think we can ask, but the answer would be D. Galvatron's got a non-multiple choice question answer for us.
Let's go for it.
Okay, so Galvatron says, not multiple choice, but I'll ask anyway. Why was Demon's Souls exclusive to the PS3 and still remains exclusive to Sony platforms to this day? The reason is more than Sony paid for it to be exclusive. Ooh, man, good question. So I don't know anything really about that intellectual property series, but I'm going to guess some form of a family connection. Like somebody's got family at Sony, somebody on the development team or something that they,
Well,
got family.
just to kind of give you a little background, and I don't really know Demon's Souls, but I know that there's Dark Souls and there are Demon's Souls. They're RPGs. They're punishingly difficult, big monsters, or big bosses rather, but just like super super hard. And I know that Demon's Souls was recently just remade for the PlayStation 5 and re-released as a release title. So, and I also know that like the president of Sony, I believe, or of PlayStation, was the one who announced it. So I'm gonna guess that it has something to do with him. That it has something to, because he said he's been wanting this to come out again for a while. I'm gonna guess it has something to do with his desire or strings that he pulled. Not a family connection, but a connection of some type.
Okay, well, Galvatron, since it's not multiple choice, we're not going to be expected to both of us land on the same answer. But let us know in the chat if either of us has wound up being at least close to accurate. Let's see. Oh, okay. So Galvatron says, from their marketing it to several publishers, all of the publishers said it would fail due to difficulty, but Sony was the only one to take a chance and paid for it to be published. So Sony footed the bill for the publishing originally.
So
on
I did
Demon's
say the
Souls.
words. I did say the words punishingly difficult. So like in a roundabout way, I feel like I kind of get that one. But anyway, all right, let's move on. So Mac, here, let's just take this last question from the test bank.
Okay, yeah, sure.
We got to keep things moving. This is a Capcom question. What Capcom star was I feel like we've done this before. Was originally supposed to be the company's mascot and spokesperson. Have we done this before?
Yeah, we have done this one before.
Okay. All right, so let's do a different one. We've done that one too, the Konami code.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Sonic. We did another Sonic thing earlier. What genre of game is 2000's Sonic Shuffle?
Sounds like a card game?
I'm not a huge Sonic fan. What genre of game is 2000's? And 2000 is referring to the year 2000.
Yeah.
Sonic Shuffle.
I'm gonna say it sounds like a card/puzzle game.
I see, and puzzle is what I thought.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Puzzle. Let's go with puzzle game.
Puzzle. Final answer.
Final answer.
Let's see. Party or Alex Man knew it's a party or board game.
Ah. Okay. Well,
rough week, but we'll keep things moving.
Rough week
that's
for
okay.
us. We've 0 out of 3, but that's okay. We hope to come back strong next week. Thank you for your questions. Save those for next time. Well, now we turn to a little something called legalese. I'm not a lawyer. I just play one on a podcast. And today, we are going to talk about a little something interesting. Now, it actually is not directly related to the ongoing, Apple v. Epic stuff going on, but it was, but this conversation that I want to have was generated by that. So the context was that there was some back and forth between Epic and Apple. Epic claiming that Apple should let them do what they want because they allow in-app content generation, so they should allow Epic to do their payment workaround. And while the answer to this question is unlikely to have much of bearing on the outcome of the greater case, it did bring up something that is worthwhile pondering, because they went on to basically question what exactly is a video game.
What is a video game?
What is a video game? So we want to hear what you think a video game is, while Mr. Nice Guy and I try and work our way through it.
Okay.
Because, dude, what even is a video game?
Bro, what even is a video game?
What even is?
Yeah. Do you want me to take this first, or do you kind of want to wait and see what the chat has to say?
Well, I think we should. I think we should make some headway on it. What do you think, if you really strip it down and you had to define it? How would you go for that?
So if I wanted to keep it extremely, extremely simple, I think about things that every video game has.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And that one thing is that it's a game with some type of controls that's played on a screen.
Okay, sure.
Because, you think that there's a controller, but there's not always, right? Because some games are mobile. Those are still video games. They're always on a screen, though. VR has a screen. Consoles have a screen. PCs have a screen. Your iPad has a screen, and there is some type of control. Whether that control be a touch, whether it be a controller, whether it be motion, or whether sometimes it even be your voice, or you blowing into a controller to make someone jump or something, right? So it's as simple as that to me. A game played on a screen.
Well, I think your intuition there, Mr. Nice Guy, is really close to what we find if we actually go grab a definition of video game. So you might find something that a dictionary would spit out something like this: a game played by manipulating images produced by a program on a screen. Seems pretty basic. I mean, of course, Mr. Nice Guy, I'm more inclined toward your definition. I think you did a much better job than random internet dictionary here. But I think that bears a couple of questions. I want to see how well our definition stacks up, right? What about MUDs or text-based adventure games like Zork, or that one that Mrs. the Mac really likes, A Dark Room, came out a few years ago on mobile devices? So, I mean, no real images displayed on a screen. Those are text-based. Is text images? Does that count? I don't know. Yours certainly works.
I think so.
Yeah?
I think they do.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, what about visual novels, right? All the rage on Kickstarter these days. You can't toss a rock in the air without hitting 4 or 5 of them. There's no real image manipulation. At best, you're making some, choices like in a choose your own adventure book. Video game?
I would say so. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Mobile games, all right? I think some mobile games tend to throw this one for a loop. There's one that I really liked. It was a game called Zombies Run. Do you ever remember me talking about this one, Mr. Nice Guy?
Refresh my memory.
So basically, it's a mobile game. You stick it in your pocket, and you go for a run. And as you run, there's this sort of scenario that's playing out. You assume the role of a supplies runner in the zombie apocalypse, and eventually there will be zombies chasing you. You'll hear them coming for you, and you'll have to run faster to get away from them. There's no screen involved. It's entirely an audio medium. There's no way for you to interact with the game other than running faster or running slower and dying to the zombies. But the screen manipulation aspect of that is entirely different. It's not a component of it. I would still, however, characterize that as still a video game, even though arguably the video component is superfluous. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We got a couple people in the chat. Do we want to read their definitions?
Yeah, why don't you give us a couple of those?
Okay, so let's start with Met's girl. She said it is a form of entertainment that requires input from the user for the story to progress using computer components and displaying on a screen. So she was with me on the screen thing. The one
Mhm.
thing I said in response in the chat is sometimes do video games not have a story though? Like Pong, for example, no story. But I think her point is her definition is pretty much on point, despite that
Mhm.
story part.
Yeah, no, I think the intuition of this is we're all getting relatively close to, our intuition. There are some little edge cases that we're having trouble with. So I think it's fitting then that we all have a fairly unified theory, I would say, of what constitutes a video game. Um, but what do we make of things like Roblox? What about Dreams?
Yeah, what about it?
What about those games? Those games are both games. Are they video games or are they not? And why? What do we. I mean, I know a very little bit about those two games, about Roblox and Dreams, but they seem to be relatively, from somebody who's never played either of them, they seem to be relatively similar. And what they are is they're mostly content creation. You build a game or you build an experience within a game engine on a console or on a computer or
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah,
like in the case
yeah.
of Dreams. Mr. Nice Guy, do you think that is a video game?
Roblox, absolutely. Yeah, I
Yeah.
do.
And is it
Yeah.
because it meets that, sort of, it's using computer components, it's using electronics to manipulate something on a screen for entertainment purposes, that type of stuff?
I feel like you're setting me up, but yeah,
No,
that's
I'm not
basically.
trying to set you up. I'm legit. This was a couple days ago in Apple v Epic. There was way to altogether too much darn time spent on this sort of, Roblox isn't a video game. So Apple, you have to let us do whatever the heck that we want. Which, tenuous at best and silly, but it did get me to thinking, would we, you, me, those of us who are here in the chat, would we all feel similarly conflicted about whether or not Roblox is a video game or whether or not Dreams is a video game? And maybe if we were jurors on such a case, we would not be persuaded by such an argument. But I'm not sure I'm inclined to call Roblox a video game because, yeah, that's the definition that we've gone with. That's what we're going with. And it seems to fit pretty well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I know that this is a weird bit of legalese. The stakes are not especially high, and we haven't found a solution, a final answer to this. But I think it's still worth asking ourselves and as well asking sometimes in a court of law, what actually is a video game? What even is a video game, bro? So anyway, as strange as it is, that's legalese for you today.
Nice. Well, that has been our show. Before we go, we have one last thing we like to do. That was a dope legalese, by the way. That last thing we like to do is called What We've Been Watching and What We've Been Playing, where we talk about just that, the cool, nerdy stuff we've been into. And if you're here live, you have a job to do. Let us know in the chat what stuff you've been watching on your TV, on your screens, on your PC, on your watch. If you're watching stuff on your Apple Watch, Mac has. I know he loves Apple stuff. And the games you've been playing on your consoles, on your mobile devices, etc., etc. Mac, what have you been into this week?
Well, I do have to say, Rolf, fantastic questions. Is Excel a video game? What about Paint?
Ooh.
And I think those are worth considering, but, we'll save it. We'll save it for the post show. What have I been into? I've watched a few different things. Been watching some Kim's Convenience. Love it. The dad in Kim's Convenience can make these. He does so much with his face. He does so much good acting
what
with
is
his
this
face.
show? I'm looking it up.
Kim's Convenience takes place in Canada, I think Toronto. It's about this family that Kim is the last name. They're from, they immigrated to Canada from Korea. And it's very much centered around, the I guess you might say, divide between, first generation immigrants and their parents. And it is heartwarming. It's wonderful. It's hilarious. And I just love it. And there's a reason why Mr. Kim, why that actor has won, I think, 2 awards for this series that's gone on 4 seasons, and it's well worth it. So Kim's Convenience. I also watched Jupiter's Legacy. It's the new sort of superhero thing on Netflix. I'm very torn on that one. It at times I was really loving it. Other times I was like, no, thank you. But nonetheless. Gosh, what else? As for playing, I've mostly been playing tabletop RPGs and a little bit of Chasm. Got to get those daily scores up there on the leaderboards. So yeah, that's me. What about you?
I'm just commenting on stuff that people are watching in the chat. So, what have I been watching? I finally finished Invincible, which is ironic because I recommended it to you. You breezed through it like a couple weeks ago, and I am just now finishing it, and it was phenomenal. Invincible is so good if you guys have Amazon Prime. You owe it to yourself to check it out.
I will say there is a fantastic line from the second episode where he says, "Earth isn't yours to conquer." And I got the chills on that line. J.K. Simmons, you are a treasure.
Yeah, he's freaking fantastic. I can't wait for them to make another season. In fact, I have once again tried to order the Compendium, Invincible Compendium 1, because the price dipped down to where I wanted it to be, and it is out of stock. So they're like, okay, it'll be there in a month. So now I'm a little bit frustrated with Amazon. But it is what it is. So Invincible, Walking Dead, Mighty Ducks Game Changers, I've been watching as well. It's a great feel-good show. If you liked Mighty Ducks growing up, you'll like Game Changers. As far as what I have been playing, I've been playing some Mario Tennis with the kids. I've been playing Pac-Man 99 quite a bit. That game is so addicting. It's basically a battle royale where you're playing Pac-Man and battling against other people on the Switch, and doing some more Call of Duty and Assassin's Creed Valhalla. And to other stuff too, but we'll leave it at that for the sake of time. Mac, what are the people into in the chat?
All right, I'll take watching. We've got Galvatron watching Mortal Kombat, Dota Dragon's Blood, Shadow and Bone, Jupiter's Legacy. Galvatron was not a fan of it, and Baby Shark. Let's see. A.R. Wilson is watching sports shows, YouTube videos, and streams. Spennis is watching Big Shot, Mighty Ducks Game Changers, Mortal Kombat, this new one. And Metzgirl's watching Mitchell's versus the Machines, Phineas and Ferb Across the Second Dimension, Falcon et al., and The Clone Wars. And I think that's all the watching.
Nice. Mitchell's versus Machines, really good. Really good family movie for those of you who like those kind of shows. I was watching it with my kids yesterday. What are people playing, though? That is the question of the moment. Ralph is playing Craftopia, Crusader Kings 3, and Slay the Spire. Spennis is playing MLB The Show 21 heavily. That sounds like an addiction, Spennis. Bowser's Fury and a tiny bit of the new Pokemon Snap as well. Metzgirl is playing GURPS, D&D, Stardew Valley, and Ticket to Ride. Galvatron is playing Resident Evil Village, Hardcore Uprising, Yoku Island Express, Child of Light, Dirt 5, and Story of a Gladiator. Mac, why don't you take us home, brother?
All right. Well, thanks, everybody, for being a part of the show this afternoon. It wouldn't be the same without you. Thanks for tuning in this night and hopefully next Tuesday and every Tuesday till the end of time at 8 p.m. Mountain, 9 p.m. Central. Thanks for keeping it nerdy, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.